ओम सदाशिवसमारंभां शंकराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्. Okay, so let us start. Any questions, clarifications? We saw the 10th verse and a couple of verses after that. Some of you have responded to the questions that I have asked about what you envisage yourself after this text is over. Some of you still have to respond, so I'm waiting for it. I'm taking everyone's into account. Okay. Any questions, clarifications on what we are doing up to now? We saw the 10th verse and the first 3 verses of the Manasavallasa. 4 verses, sorry. First 4 verses of the Manasavallasa. Clear about it? Or any questions are there? Okay. Now, among traditional scholars, there is an opinion that Dakshinamurti Stotram was an Ashtakam before. Ashtakam meaning there were only 8 verses that Bhagavan Shankaracharya only wrote the first 8 verses, and the remaining 2 verses were added on. Okay. We don't know for sure by whom or what, even if that is true or not, we don't know. Okay. But Sureshwara has written, Sureshwaracharya has written the Manasavallasa on all 10. Therefore, we take it as all 10. Okay. Why this is being said is because of certain talk about Siddhis, Yoga, this, that, etc. Therefore, they said no, Ashtakam only. Okay. That's a little bit of a thing. I thought I will keep you informed of what the scholastic view also is. Then going ahead with what we are, after where we have stopped last time, the 5th verse. Ananta Shakti Aishwaryam Nityananda Shanimadayah Swasyeshwaratve Samsiddhehe Siddhyanti Swayamevahi. He says Ananta Shakti, endless powers. Aishwaryam, Aishwaryam, wealth, prosperity, all of them. Nityanandasya, Ananda Swarupaha, Anantam, Anantatvam. Okay. And Animadeyaha, Anima, Garima, etc. There are some siddhis, we'll talk about that later. Okay. Sa Ishwaratve Samsiddhe. You have not worked for any of these powers. But when you are understood that you are nothing but Ishvara, Siddhyanti Swayamevahi. Even without working for it, some of them come with you, he says. Come to Arthavada. Okay. Arthavada. Don't take it literally. One thing is true. The Ananda that you will get by using those powers, that Ananda is already yours. Okay. That much is a fact. Because the use of any power gives you some sort of Ananda, isn't it? Yeah. It gives you some sort of Ananda. Hey, I could do this. Because what is power? Capacity to get things done. Other than that, what is power? So when you get something done, something that you wanted, you get it done, you get a kick out of it. You get that Ananda. That Ananda is already there with the wise person. You remember there was something called a calculus of Ananda? Yaad hai? Where did it come? Taittiriya, yes. Taittiriya Upanishad, yes. Okay, that all the wealth of the world, all the power, all the this, sadhu, yuvaha, good person, yuvaha, ashishtaha, balishtaha, dridishtaha, all that. Such a person, all the wealth is there. That is one unit of Manushyananda. Like that you saw multiples, all that belongs to the wise person, all that belongs to the wise person. Just to show that whatever Ananda is anywhere, your Swarup Ananda anyway. So what does it matter? So similarly, all this, whatever little kick you get out of using some of these siddhis, etc., that's already yours. Okay, but he says that once you have got the Sarvatma Bhavam, some of these siddhis also come to you. Maybe. We are not working for it, so what does it matter whether it is there or not there? Everyone has some siddhis. Some of it we use, some of it we don't use. Sadhu Banke, what siddhi are you going to use? Okay, so there is nothing much, just a statement this is. Okay. At the same time, don't take all these things too literally. Especially those of us who are coming from a strong yoga background. Okay, yoga background. Like I have met a couple of yoga teachers who were convinced that Pujya Swamiji had some of these siddhis. Pujya Swamiji would negate all of them, ruthlessly. At least I sort of give him some validity, okay, because it's there in the shop. Pujya Swamiji used to negate all of it. But I met a couple of yoga teachers who said, Swamiji, I am sure he had it. I said, okay, you can be sure. I am not sure. Okay. So, don't take it too literally. Then you will get into your trouble. Okay. Yeah. But it is good for understanding what the siddhis are, etc. Yad Aishwarya Viprudimbha Brahma Vishnu Shivadayaha Aishwaryante Shasante Saiva Atma Sada Shivaha. Okay. Now he is following that Shivagama paradigm. Okay. Atma Sada Shivaha. Atma is Ishvara. Tattvamasi iti. Okay, Atma is Ishvara. Okay. Then, because of the grace of Ishvara, Shasante, these people rule. Where? Yad Ishvara Viprang Brahma Vishnu Shivadeyaha. By some aspect, Vibrang Bhava. Okay, that few drops of the power of Ishvara, Brahma Vishnu Mahadev. Okay, Shivadeya. Brahma Vishnu Shiva now becomes the creator, sustainer, destroyer. So you are looking at it from their limited aspect as deities. And Sadashiva is being talked about as Ishvara. Therefore he says, you have equated yourself with Ishvara, and by the grace of Ishvara's power only, all these functionaries function. All these functionaries function. Okay. True. See, you can look at Brahmaji as Ishvara. You can look at Vishnu as Ishvara. You can look at Shiva as Ishvara. No problems in any of them. But here he is looking at them as deities and Sadashiva as Ishvara. That's why I said it is a Shivagama paradigm. Each form of worship has its own paradigms. This is a Shivagama paradigm where Shiva is Ishvara. If Sadashiva is, then to make a difference between Shiva as deity and Shiva as Ishvara, you put the name Sadashiva to Shiva. You add the Sada to Shiva to make it Sadashiva. So Sadashiva is Ishvara. Then deity becomes Shiva, becomes destroyer. Just a way of conceiving, okay? In fact, if you look at Shivagama, with all the way of how you conceive the deities, how you invoke mantras for them, all of that. Okay, it has a validity for certain function, especially when you are setting up a temple, etc. Like for example, the Dakshinamurti temple in Coimbatore has been set up by Shivagama rites, because that's how you follow. It's a Shiva temple, therefore Shivagamaha. If it is a Vishnu temple, then you will follow Vaishnava Sampradayas for the setting of the temple. If it is a Devi temple, then it becomes Shaktam. Those are the different paradigms you will follow, because you have to set up a temple. In the temple, the main deity is Ishvara. Any other becomes deities. So, if it is a Vishnu temple, Vishnu is Ishvara, Shiva will become deities. Shiva, Devi, etc. will become deities. If it's a Shiva temple, Shiva is Ishvara, Vishnu, Devi, etc. become deities. If it's a Devi temple, Devi is Ishvara, others become deities. So that's how it's conceived of. So here is conceiving of as Ishvara is nothing but Sadashivaha, and all the deities are manifestation of his power, etc. Therefore, the idea is your identification is not with the deity, your identification is with Ishvara himself. That's the idea. Your identification is with Ishvara himself. Okay. So क्या हो गया? So here, look at it. Another example. पुष्पम आनयन्ता गन्धाः विनेशम अनुभूयते विना इच्छम अनुभूयते पूर्णाहं भावयुक्तेन परिच्छिन्ना विभूतयः पुष्पम आनयन्तः. The one who is carrying a bouquet of flowers. Okay. It is his wife's birthday, so on the way home, he has picked up a bouquet of flowers for his wife. Okay. Why? Because अच्छा है. It's a birthday after all. So he comes with a bouquet of flowers. Now the bouquet is meant for his wife, but as he is carrying it, he says, "Vina ichham gandaha anubhuyate." Even though he has no great desire for the fragrance of those flowers, vina ichham, he enjoys it. Whether he wants it or not, he enjoys it. Supposing he is picking up the flowers instead of for his wife, for puja. When you are picking up flowers for a puja, you are not supposed to smell it before you offer it to the Lord. Okay? And after it is offered to the Lord, you take it to your eyes before you smell it. This is the culture. You are not supposed to smell it before you offer to the Lord. But there is this huge basket of flowers with you, you are carrying it for the puja. Vina ichha, without any desire, you cannot but help get the smell, isn't it? Correct or not? Yeah. Unless you respond, I don't know whether people are going to sleep or not. No? That's why, just to ensure. You all know I am not asleep because I am talking. Okay. Okay. Similarly, he says, Purnoham iti bhava yuktena. One was that bhava. Purnoham iti bhava. Parichinnaeva vibhutaya. These small glories you can always enjoy. These small glories, vina ichham, will come to you, he says. Like how some of the fragrance of the flowers come to you, some of these glories come to you. Okay. Arthavada, exaggeration, so that in a lazy student of Vedanta, okay, a lazy student, he will do some dhyanam, etc. to own it up. हाँ थोड़ा power आएगा तो अच्छा है. Not that I'm really interested, but अच्छा है. Okay. Don't take it too seriously. Okay. It is there. Yeah. Like, I have one of some of these powers, I have not used, I don't normally use it. Sometimes without my intention it gets used. Like how this, Purnavamiti Bhava Yukta, without my intention gets used. Last 3-4 months, it has not happened at all. Because you're sitting at home now. Okay. Very often it happens. I'm going to my class and I see a bus standing there and I think I'll catch it. The moment I think I'll catch it, the bus moves away. It is transported away by my mere thought. Okay. So that way. ऐसा सिद्धीस हो जाते कभी कभी. बिना इच्छा, definitely, because my इच्छा was to catch the bus, not to miss it. Okay. So ऐसा हो जाता है. Has the group got it? Okay. I don't know whether you have not got it or if it's a live class, I can. Yeah. Because in a live class, see, that's why my jokes are less in this, because I won't get a reaction and I have not yet become that wise. Okay. If you have noticed, all my jokes, etc., are less in this class. Because now, what's the point in cracking a joke? I don't know whether people have got the joke or not. Yeah. Therefore, okay. Now, alright, after having said that, he says, he is going into a little bit description about the powers. Now, I know we are not interested in these powers. But at the same time, it's good to know, to be informed about these things. Therefore, this is also there. Okay. Anima mahima chaiva garima laghima tatha prakti pakamyam ishvatvam vashitvam chashta siddhaya. Anima mahimadi, they are the ashta siddhis. What is that? Anima, to become small. Okay. Mahima, to become vast, big. Anjaneya had it, Hanuman had that, all the Ashtasiddhis he had it. He could become small. When he entered Sri Lanka, he entered as small as a cat. Though normally lamba chauda aadmi tha, but when he entered Sri Lanka, he entered as small as a cat. And when he flew across to Lanka, huge Mahima, huge form. Garima, heaviness. In combat, he wanted to be heavy very often, at least his hand to be heavy. Or 2.5 kilo ka haath, Hanuman was not 2.5 kilo ka haath, okay? Hanuman was 100 kilo ka haath. Okay, heaviness. Ligama, lightness. Yeah, lightness. Okay. Then, Prapti, range of vision, you can look into the future. Prakam yaha, freedom of will. Ishitva, the power to command. Vashistva, the power to control. These are the Ashtasiddhis. Each Siddhi we'll explain. So we'll see it at that time. Okay. Eke Prapti. Prakam, Ishitvam, Vashitvam cha Ashtasiddhya. Vashikaranam, etc. Ashtasiddhya. These are the 8 Siddhis. When you look at all that, many people say, थोड़ा मिलेगा तो अच्छा है. ठीक है, बैठ के ध्यान करो. Aham brahmasmi iti dhyanam do, then you'll get it. Okay. Atyantam anushu pranushu atmatvena praveshanam anima samyaisharyam vyaptasya paramatmanaha. Now, if you look at the definition, he slightly made modification here to indicate all these Ashtasiddhis are Atma Swarupa. He says, Atyantam Anushu. Normally in the Shastra, Anima is an ability for you to become small in size. As I said, when Anjaneya entered Sri Lanka, he entered as small as a cat. Chota. 6-footer character he was. Powerful guy. But he became small as a cat and he entered Sri Lanka because he didn't want to be known and caught, okay, until he was ready to be. Okay. Therefore, but here he says, Atyamto Anushu, into a small atom also. Pranushu, into a being that is as small as an atom. Atmatvena praveshanam. Atmatvena praveshanam, yourself entering. Anima sanyam aishwaryam. That is called anima. This aishwaryam, this power is called anima. Vyaptasya paramatmanaha. Okay, that is the power of the Paramatma. Naturally is the power of the Paramatma. Do you remember the statement Anoho Aniyan Gariyo Gariyan? Yaad hai? Yaad hai na? Yeah. The Anoho Aniyan. So the Atma is what? Smaller than the smallest thing that you will find. Therefore, in every atom, in every particle, the Atma is already present. Therefore, what is the point of becoming smaller? I am already there. Do I have to become smaller to be there? I don't have to be. Anoho Aniyan, I am already Anoho Aniyan. As pure consciousness, I am already Anoho Aniyan. The power of Anima is already there in me. Are you getting it? He is giving it a twist. Don't take the power as literal. Yeah. Therefore, it's already there. Paramatmanaha Vyaptasya. The all-pervading Atma already has that power in itself. Aniyo. Anoho Aniyan. So no problems. Then what is Mahima? Brahmanadi Shivantasya Shat Tattvam Samhitehe Bahisya Vyapti Vrittitvam Aishwaryam Mahimakhyayam. The power of Mahima to become vast. Okay, to become vast. Yeah. When Hanuman was battling the Rakshasas, became huge. So they all seemed puny in front of him. Okay, yeah. So in one sweep of the Gada, he could take a dozen off straight, no problems. Mahima. Here is what? Brahmanda, the whole universe. Sadashiva Antiyeshu. Ending with up to Sadashiva himself. 36 principles, Samhite. 36 tattvas of the Shivagama. 36 tattvas. We have seen that earlier, second chapter. Okay. Bahipsha Vyapya Vrittitvam is Aishwaryam called Mahima. Therefore, why do I have to become big? Physically, I don't have to become big. I, as consciousness, pervade the whole universe. Mahato Mahiyan. There is nothing bigger than me anyway. Is there anything bigger than me? Mahato Mahiyan. Brahatvad Brahman, remember? I am the big limitlessness. Anantam is my nature. Therefore, Anoho Aniyan, Mahato Mahiyan. The power of Anima is taken care of, the power of Mahima is also taken care of. No yogi with the siddhis of Anima and Mahima can become like this, like the Atma, Anoho Aniyan, the smallest thing you can think of smaller than that, and Mahato Mahiyan become as big as a whole limitless space, etc. No yogi can become that. But that is my Swarupa. Anoho Aniyan, Mahito Mahima. Therefore, Anima Mahima is there already with me. I don't have to strive for it. That's the idea. That's the idea. I don't have to strive for it. It is there. Those powers are there. I don't have to strive for it. It's already there in me. The biggest Anima I have, the smallest Anima is there with me. The greatest of them all is there. And the greatest Mahima is also there with me. I am limitlessness. Therefore, as I am present here on this planet, I am present in every planet in the galaxy. What greater Mahima can be there compared to that? Therefore, Mahima also taken care of. Okay? I'm there in heaven also right now, okay? As consciousness, I am there in heaven right now. In hell also I am there. Yeah. In every loka in the universe I am there. What's the problem? Because in fact, all the lokas exist in me, I don't exist in them. All the lokas exist in me, I don't exist in them. Where did we see that verse? Where? In the Gita. Ninth chapter. Okay, ninth chapter. Yeah. I am not in them, they are in me. Yeah. ऐसा थोड़ा याद रखने का है ना, अच्छा है. That's why I keep asking questions. Yeah? Should. Beg your pardon? Not really. Not really, because that Krishna was showing a form to Arjuna. Okay, therefore that doesn't come under Mahima. Unless you saying it's Ishvara's Mahima. Yeah. You can say it that way. Yeah, Ishvara's Mahima you can say. Yeah. But not the power Mahima that they talk about. Even what he is talking about here is not literally the power that you talk about as Anima and Mahima. No. He is talking about the nature of this consciousness, nature of the Atma, nature of Ishvara. And saying, what is Anima? Becoming small. No? So what is the nature of the Atma? In the smallest of things it is present already. No? See, what do you use the power of Anima as? Like that's why I gave Hanuman's example. He used the power to become small so you can enter a city unnoticed. Who will notice a cat entering? Something as small as a cat entering. Can even become smaller. You could have become a fly. You could have become a fly. You could have become a virus also and enter. Yeah, you could have. Anima, that is. But here what he is saying? Consciousness is present in every little thing. Therefore, that is Anima of consciousness, he says. Are you getting the idea and the difference of viewpoints, or you have not got it? Yeah. Yeah? 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 Yeah, means exactly. Yeah. It's already there in I consciousness, but in a slightly different form. In the yogi getting it, for want of a better word, the yogi getting it is through a process, number one. And number two, it is limited. Here is saying is Atma Swarupa. What is Anima? Being small, na? You are there in every small thing. Already there. Because why do you want to become small? No one wants to become small. Tiny. You want to enter something. Like you have forgotten your keys inside your home. So you become small, tiny, enter through the keyhole, get into the your room, and then become your normal size. Pick up the key and open the door. Yogis will get upset with me because I am using the power of Anima for something so small. Okay, but that is what Anima is about. Anyway, see, that is a functional Anima which yogis talk about. Here, what Sureshwara is saying, you have already entered everything anyway as I consciousness. It is there in everything. As Sat, it is there in everything. So you already entered. So where is it that you are not there? Anima is there. Mahima is also there. You become big. You pervade the whole universe anyway as consciousness. Therefore, what's the problem? It is not that the power is there literally. It is not that the literal power is there. So it is present not exactly as a power. It is present as Atma Swarupa. Are people here getting this difference? Others also? Okay, okay, okay. Okay. Then he is taking Lagima and Garima together. Lagima is the power to become light, and Garima is the power to become heavy. Okay. Mahameru samangasya samudha uddharna karmanihi lagave tulyatvam lagimanam viduhu buddha. Mahameru samangasya, huge man, like a Mahameru, not literally, Arthavada, huge man, sitting down there. Okay. Samudhara karmani. Now you have to lift up this character. He is huge, heavy. Okay, like some of those sumo wrestlers, 200 kilos, huge. Laghave Tula Tulyatvam. But he says, okay, come and lift me up. Okay. And when you lift him up, one child can lift him up. Why? Because he's made his body light as cotton. Tula Tulyatvam. Light as cotton. So it's like a bunch of cotton being there, and he can be lifted up. Okay. Iti Laghimanam Viduhu Buddha. The wise people talk about this as the power of Laghima. Okay, this is literal power. You can say that there in the Atma also. Why? Because the lightest of things also the Atma is there. In the cotton also Atma is there. Going by the previous logic he has given. Then what is Garima? Paramanu samangasya samudharana karmani gaurave meru tulyatvam Garimanam viduhu Buddha. Paramanu samangasya, a tiny character, tiny thing, almost like a paramanu, like an atom. A small character. But samudharana karmani, when you want to lift him up, gaurave meru tulyatam, he becomes as heavy as the Meru mountain. Mahameru mountain he becomes as heavy. Garimanam vidur Buddha. This is called as Buddha by the wise as Garima. See this Anima, Garima, when you are looking at all these powers, you think it is something extraordinary. It is not really all that extraordinary as people talk about it. Okay, Anima and Garima may be because, Anima and Mahima may be because there is an expansion involved. Okay, but in this Laghima, Garima, no big deal. No big deal. Many people learn to do this, to tread lightly, so that you barely leave a footprint on the sand. Next camp, when we have it at this place, I will show you all how to tread so lightly that you don't leave a footprint on the sand. And Garima, you are so rooted to the earth that nobody can shake you off. Nobody can shake you off. Yeah. These are all the stories that go around, okay? But see, when you say stories, you will say, oh, Garima, huge became, nobody could lift him up. Yeah, but you are so rooted, that's all part of rootedness. You are so rooted, you are so heavy. It looks as though you are connected with the earth, so it is not possible to lift you up. To a small extent, these are developed by people without too much of effort also. But no big deal. It's useful only for certain functions, not otherwise, not for the common person. Okay. I don't think anyone has any questions on these powers. No? Then, Prapti, your vision. How you can know things, see things. Patala Vamsina Pumsaha Brahmaloka Avalokanam Pratyurnama Maheshwaryam Sudushprapyam Ayoginam Ayoginam dushprapyam. Those who are not yogis, this is very difficult to get, he says. Very difficult to get. What is that? Patala Vamsana. You are in the Patala, the lowest loka possible. This person sitting in Patala, Pumsam, Brahmaloka, Avalokana. He sees what is happening in Brahmaloka. This is called Prapti. This ability to see is called Prapti. Maheshwaryam. So, Dushprapyam Ayoginam. For someone who is not a yogi, it is not possible. Okay. There is a modern yogi like that. Very popular figure. Who says, I am not educated, I have not read anything. If I want to know something, I just close my eyes and sit down and I come to know. Therefore, you come and meditate, I will teach you meditation, you will also be able to do it. But I have not yet seen any of his students being able to do it. Okay? Where Sarvatma Bhavam that my Guru taught, there are 350 teachers who have been teaching that. And I am sure a lot of the students have got it. Okay? Meaning the grand students also got it. In fact, some of the grand students have become teachers. But this yogi, I have not seen anybody else getting it. And it conflicts with the idea of pramana. Correct or not? For knowledge you need pramana. So what is said here is, okay, if you want to give some justification to this, the limitations of pratyaksha pramana that a normal mind enjoys or a normal mind has, because we all have limitation of pratyaksha. How far can we see? Remember, pratyaksha is a power in the mind. The sense organs are only golakas. Therefore, our golakas in a way enable the mind to see. At the same time, the golakas limit the mind to see. I am sure my perception is much more than my eyes give. Why? My eyes have to be helped with these specs. So because of the spectacles, my eyes can see better. Why? My power of perception is in my mind, that is functioning through the golakas called eyes. But the golakas with age have become a little bit weaker, therefore they have to be supported with the spectacles. Therefore every golaka, every power of perception is limited by the golakas. Now what he is saying here, what the yoga books say, is the limitation of the golakas are removed. The mind can directly see. So it becomes pratyaksham, everything becomes pratyaksham to you. This is a one way of reconciling the problem of this type of perception with the need for pramana. Therefore it comes under direct perception. Praptihi. Okay? Praptihi. Yeah? Shoot. No, clairvoyance will come later. Will come a little later. Yeah. One aspect of it comes. Clairvoyance is using more than one of these things. Yeah. But in a way you can say, yeah. Yeah, it's something like, no, but that is because she gets messages from her mentors, etc. All that thing. That's different, yeah. And some of them, yeah, would come under this. It's not exactly clairvoyance. That's an foreign term. Prapti. So if you do some meditation, etc., you get this. But why do you want to know? You know, one of the this Prapti power I have to specially speak because people will like it. Because we are all knowledge centered people, isn't it? We all want knowledge. The problem of using this power is you think whatever you think is true. That is the flip side of this power. Because you're looking at it, you're seeing it. But remember, when you are seeing something, there can be prama, there can be brahma as well. Brahma is what? What is Brahma? Adhyasa. Yeah. Any adhyasa is Brahma. Erroneous knowledge is Brahma. Brahma is right knowledge. So in perception you can see things rightly, you can see things wrongly also. No? How do you know this is perception or this is not visual thinking? Therefore, the limitation of this power is that the yogi can think that whatever he sees on this is true. The same yogi who claims to close his eyes and know everything says, there is nothingness, I am nothing. Atma Shunya, nothing is there. He says that. Why? Because when you try to see the Atma, what does he see? You can't see. It is agrahyam. It can't be seen by the sense organs. Therefore he sees nothing. Therefore he thinks nothing is the truth. Are you seeing the problems involved in this power, prapti? Am I making sense to all of you? Okay. If there is any delusion in your mind, any doubt or question, please ask, because this is a controversial topic. Okay, I don't want you all to go with a stupid doubt in your mind. No, it's all functional. Because siddhis means functional. Maybe laukikam, maybe alaukikam, but they are functional. Now, how do you equate this with the Atma? Every knowledge that is there in the world about anything is manifestation of what? I consciousness. I already illumine everything in the world, or I don't illumine everything in the world. Hello, I asked a question. Do I consciousness illumine everything in the world? Therefore, you have the power of prapti as far as the consciousness is concerned or not? Nothing is away from consciousness. So, when the Vedanta looks at it, he looks at it like that. That's why it doesn't work for any of these powers. Okay? But if somebody wants to work on it, work on it. Akasha gamanadi nama anyaptam siddhi sampadam swecha matrena samsiddhi prakashamyam abhidiyate parakamyadim abhidiyate. Akasha gamanadi nama anyaptam siddhi sampadam. You want to go from here to Kerala. There is too much of COVID cases here. Let me go to Kerala. There are hardly any cases. Akasha gamanadi. No ticket necessary for you, no. Akasha gamanadi. Swecha matrena samsiddhim. Okay. Prakamyam abhidiyate. Okay. The power to be able to move around with just your will, with just your thought. It looks like Green Lantern's power. Okay. That's what they say when Shankara received the news of that his mother is on the deathbed. He flew from where he was to be at his mother's bedside so he could help her go in peace, because the commitment he had made. Kahani hai. Maybe true, who knows? Fact, fiction, everything gets mixed up sometimes. So, but this is supposed to be the Siddhi. You don't have to spend for a ticket. But visa you will still need. You will have to enter through the airport. And they will ask you, where do you come from? Which flight were you? Gadbad ho jayega. Then you will be arrested for illegal entry into states. The only thing is you'll be able to disappear from there and come back. Yeah. Very But as far as Atma is concerned, not a problem. Why not a problem? Sarva Vyaptitvad, exactly. Yeah. Asinam Duram Rajate. Remember the Upanishadic statement. He is sitting in one place, but he is there far away also. Seated in one place, he has already reached there. When the mind went there, he found the Atma is already there. Already there. So this guy flies to Kerala and he lands up in Cochin, in his hometown. And he finds the Atma is already there, before him. Therefore, Sarva Vyaptitva, Atma does not require this power. It's already mine. It's already mine. Sarva Vyaptitva, it's already mine. I don't have to travel. Without traveling, I am already there. That is the absolute standpoint. This is a functional one. Okay? So, when you are presenting it, both are mixed up together. Both are always mixed up together. The functional, the absolute. Now, because, why is Sureshwara saying all this? This looks as though a come down, it's a come down after all the Vedanta he is talking, isn't it? To talk about all this. Because he used yoga as sadhana. In the previous verse, he used yoga as a sadhana for preparing your mind. Following the same paradigm of yoga, he is saying these powers are possible. Only because of that, not because of anything else. Okay? Not because of anything else. His intention is not to make the students of Vedanta work on these powers. His intention is to motivate you towards moksha. Moksha is the goal here, not these powers. Powers are not the goal. Moksha is the goal. And if moksha is the goal, these powers can be a hindrance to you, where you can get attached to them. You can get attached to them. The more you use them, the more you will get attached to them. The more you will find it difficult to have objectivity and vairagya too. Like to this, for example, to this yogi, who says, if I close my mind and I can know everything. How difficult will it be for him to understand that a pramana is necessary to know the truth? Let us take it. Let us take this case of this yogi who says, I know everything, I just have to sit down, close my eyes, I know what it is. In yoga they say it's a mixture of dharana and dhyanam. You focus on the object, become one with the object, and you know what it is. Now to that mind, who has gained insights into so many things in this manner, to that person, if I want to present moksha and say that you need to know the truth, you need to know yourself. For that, you need a pramana called Vedanta. How difficult will it be? No, I don't need. I just have to sit down, close my eyes, because after all, myself, I look into it and I'll see. How will I convince him? How can he get convinced himself? Forget me convincing. How can he get convinced himself? It's very difficult, na, for him. Right or wrong? Are you all getting this? Because he will sit down, okay, I'll say, okay, try to know yourself. He will sit down, close his eyes. Dhyan mein baith gaya. I. And he'll send his mind where? To himself. But the Atma is not an object of the mind. If the Atma is not an object of the mind, it cannot be objectified. Therefore, this type of perception he cannot do. If it is an object, I say, hey, I think there is a tumor in your body. You were a smoker before, there is a tumor in your body. Tumor? Me? Not possible. Look. He can look into it. Are correct hai. In this position, in this way, here, there is a small tumor. He can say that. Why? Because the tumor is objectifiable. But how will he remove the tumor? For that he will have to go to the doctor. Allopathy, Ayurveda, whatever he believes in, Siddha, he will have to go. But how will he know the Atma? He goes within. You go within, what do you see? Nothing. Atma is not available for objectification. If Atma is not available for objectification, he goes within, he will see nothing. Other than the mind, etc., etc., etc. When he goes about negating, nothing. Therefore, he has to say Atma is nothing, and he says that. Therefore, forget making him understand Vedanta. Will he even come to Vedanta? Will he even come to Vedanta? It's a very prepared mind. If he comes to Vedanta like this, he will get it. But this is a huge block for him. Are you getting what I am saying, you guys? Yeah. Can you see? Yeah. It's a biggest block. In fact, I know this guy. Sorry, I didn't see that. Whatever someone posted some as a chat. Can you do that again? I didn't see that properly. Okay. Now look. Same reason why Nirguna is Upasana is not possible. Correct. You can't do Nirguna Upasana. Nirguna has to be Jneyam, not an Upasana. You can do Nididhyasana on Nirguna. Correct. So, for the same reason, he will not be able to see himself. Even him coming to Vedanta is doubtful. At the same time, remember, as a yogi, you cannot get these things without Samadhi experience. Without practicing Samadhi, you won't get. So, he has got Samadhi. So, some experiential feeling that I am one with everything is there. Therefore, he thinks, I don't need it also. You are talking of oneness, I already feel it. I have already experienced it. Not a matter for experience, a matter for recognition. His powers becomes his limiting factor. Dvaita everyone understands, Baba. Dvaita everyone understands. What is there to understand in Dvaita? You start with Dvaita. Huh? I didn't say he is seeing oneness. I said he has got some sort of experience. Yeah. There is no oneness he is not seeing. He cannot see. He cannot see. Yeah. Therefore, such a brilliant mind. But that brilliance itself becomes a block for understanding Vedanta. That power itself becomes a major block for understanding. Forget trying to understand him. Even coming to study Vedanta will be difficult for him. Though I know one thing. He sent some of his students to pick up Pujya Swamiji's book from our ashram. Some of the books they bought and took it. I hope reading that, some this will come into him. Because I respect that man. He has got something about it. Okay? Yeah. It's a pity he didn't meet Pujya Swamiji in his lifetime. Some karmic thing is there. Yeah. Because Pujya Swamiji could have, if at all there was somebody who could convince him, it would have been Pujya Swamiji. But then there are many people who have come like that, met Pujya Swamiji and gone without and remain unchanged also. So we never know. We never know. Yeah. Because all the non-traditional teachers who believe in experience will find it very difficult to come to Vedanta. Another teacher who came to him like that was Muji. This name I can mention because public knowledge. There's a teacher called Muji. Tvampada Lakshana is very good in explaining. Very nicely he explains. The you up to the Sakshi he explains very nicely. And he used to have a camp in Rishikesh at the adjoining ashram. Santananandji's ashram. He came and met Swamiji. But he couldn't relate. By that time, Pujya Swamiji was just 1 year before his Samadhi. So he couldn't talk much or elaborately or something like that. He couldn't relate to the fact that you can teach about consciousness. No, consciousness cannot be taught. Awareness cannot be taught. It has to be developed within. Big block. The bloke really has a big block, okay? Yeah, that bloke really has a big block there. Yeah. But in the yogi's case, this is a big problem. This is a big problem. Yeah. Yeah. No, don't try to categorize it like that. There is an experience there. Like when you sit in Samadhi, there is some sort of experience of not being bound by your ahankara because your ahankara disappears. Like in deep sleep, there is no sense of limitation in deep sleep. And Samadhi is considered like conscious sleep. You're conscious. Therefore, the limitations of the ego you have dropped. Therefore, there is some sort of experience of freedom. Not enough, but some sort of experiential thing is there. Many often people mistake that to be moksha. The yogis make the mistake of mistaking that as moksha. Instead of recognizing I am limitlessness, they take the experience of limitlessness as moksha. Whatever little experience they have got. I am not saying it's real, true limitlessness, but they have dropped the ego. Consciously they have dropped the ego. Therefore there is some ananda, etc. in that. So that is mistaken and that becomes the block. They think that is moksha. Why? Because exactly like how a scientist has a great block. What the great block a scientist has? Science will discover everything. If it is not scientific, it is not true. So by the very definition of scientific, the definition of science and his identification as a scientist is so high, he cannot explore into any non-scientific discipline. Many scientists will not even accept psychology as a discipline of knowledge. They will accept psychiatry but not psychology. Economics is not a science. Yeah, but he couldn't do any more research in that university because of economic reasons. Funding stopped. So there is a discipline of knowledge which he doesn't recognize, but which affects him very sorely. Because of COVID, lot of Asian students are not going to states. Therefore, funding is not available. Therefore, this guy's scientific research had to be stopped because no more funding available. Economic reasons. Therefore, there are disciplines of knowledge which are not scientific, but a scientist finds it very difficult to see that. Similarly, the yogi has the same problem. This yogi I'm talking about, who has that vision and he just has to close his eyes and see things. That kind of a guy will have this problem. To accept another means of knowledge other than your five means, other than your five pramana, to accept the sixth pramana and see that that is what will give you moksha. Huge block. There is a 10-ton block sitting in his head. Unfortunate. Now people here, do you understand why Pujya Swamiji would be so dismissive of yoga and other disciplines that talks about all these siddhis? Because he didn't want any one of us to get trapped into those things. Therefore he would be dismissive even at the cost of his health. Right, Falguni? You could have helped him so much, na? Yeah, but even at the cost of his health, his love for his students was so much that he would dismiss, because he didn't want any of us to get stuck in some of these things. That's what he was. Okay? Yeah. So think it over. If you have any questions, we'll go into it next time. Good place to stop. Probably next class or the class after that, this text will be over. Okay. I hope, I don't know, all of you have got that notification for 15th of August, what we are planning. All of you got that, na? For Pujya Swamiji. Okay, I'll put it up in the group again. It should have been. You're not on our mailing list? Of course you're on our mailing list, Anand. Okay, there must be something. We'll just double check that. Okay. 15th August we are planning, I'll mention it also. 15th August we are planning to have a celebration of Pujya Swamiji's 90th Tithi. We'll celebrate it. It is not exactly Tithi. Tithi is on 8th and 9th, where Aim for Seva is having a celebration. But we'll do the celebration slightly differently on 15th. We will do that, which is his date of birth. We'll follow that and do it. And then end of August we'll have the camp. Those details also will come to you. If it has not already come. I think it has already come. Online. 2 Saturday Sundays. 2 weekends. Full. Yeah. 2 full days. We will send you all the details. Huh? We are up to it. Are you up to it? We are up to it. Are you up to it? Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Kiran has already emailed. You all have got it. Look at your emails. Exactly. The timings, everything is there on it. Yeah. So, all the details are there. Yeah, yeah. And I will put up all the details on the group, this thing also. Yeah, yeah, we will do, I'll do that, don't worry. Yeah. So, good place to stop. Om Tat Sat.